All right, traders, happy start to your trading week. I'm Matt, he's Jacey with Empire Algorithmic Trading, here to bring you your daily dose of VWAP Vision's Stock Talk.
Where the volume weighted average price helps us make sense of the markets, Matt. So let's get right to it. It's time for a little stock talk.
Let's talk stocks. All right, we are back on this beautiful Tuesday here, Jace, and I'm kind of excited to get into it. So, what happened today in the markets?
It was an interesting day. Everything was down across the board as far as the major averages go. The S&P 500 closed down 7/10 of 1%, I should say. Nasdaq Composite closed down about 0.8%. Small caps closed down about 0.5%, and then the mid caps closed down about 0.5%. But what's interesting is the nature of the day. They all opened up down. Especially the Nasdaq or the S&P 500 opened up down, sold off. I think at one point it was down 1.4, almost 1.5% on the day, and then it ended up rallying, and it rallied up into the close. It closed higher than where it opened, and it closed down just 0.7%. And then the same thing with the Nasdaq Composite. The Nasdaq actually opened up near its low. It didn't trade down near as much as the S&P intraday, but it just rallied throughout the day, and it closed up near its high. High for the day, I should say. And then the same thing with the small caps. And the small caps, actually, the IWM ended up finding support near its 10-day moving average, which is a bullish look. And then the mid caps, same thing, found support above the 20-day moving average, rallied up throughout the day, and closed above its 10-day moving average. So again, a kind of an intraday relatively bullish look. The VIX, I'm sorry, bonds did sell off pretty hard, which is probably the reason for rising interest rates, probably the reason for some of the sell-off. I don't really know the reasons, to be honest with you. It doesn't really matter. VIX, nice big spike in the VIX, which means a lot of people are pretty fearful. You get teeny little moves like this in the S&P and in the Nasdaq, and for the VIX to jump like that, it's not a lot of believers in this rally, right? Everybody's kind of expecting this thing to roll over, and I'm actually kind of one of them. I would like to see we're seasonally right in that part. We're just in the natural flow of how the market moves. We're kind of prime for a correction, right? For just a little test of either the 50-day moving average, something small, 5 to 8 to maybe even 10%. We're just set up for it, right? It's just, but that's also when everybody's expecting it is when it's not going to happen. So you always got to be on your toes. Long story short, we are 2 days right after the green zone. We are 2 days below the VWAP. So if it closes down tomorrow, we're right back in a red zone. If it closes down tomorrow, though, then we also likelihood have a test or a break of this low here. So there's some interesting ways to read this chart. One, you could look at this as a test of this high, right, that is failing right now. So we had a high that was set back here. The red zone hit, a low was set. The highs were tested. The market's rejecting that high, right? That's the way to look at it. So if you get a down day tomorrow, we're back in the red zone. It would be very bullish, of course, if we break we break the low of last week, which was 63.43. That's with the kind of the bearish look on it, right? The way I'm looking at it is a little bit differently. I like the spike in the VIX. Because it just means people are just a little bit on edge. And I love the intraday action. I loved how it got bought up throughout the session. That's kind of a good look. And so, I was kind of look as like always, and I know these are all of our previous breakout stocks, right? That you can get from our algorithm. But I always kind of look at the leading stocks and see what they did. So right off the bat, you've got a firm down 7%. That's a bearish look, right? You had this big gap up. Another gap down. That's an evening star. If it was more of an uptrend, I mean, it does have a heck of an uptrend. So you could call that an evening star, which is a very bearish look. So okay, man, that's a pretty ugly look. Zeta, okay, one of our recent breakouts. It was down 5.6% today. That breakout failed. This was one we were anticipating, kind of looking for a test of the breakout. So we got an initial breakout there. Another failure in Super Group Limited. Now this one was an interesting one. Right here, it looks like it's a possible late stage base, but then you start zooming out and you're thinking, well, maybe not so much, right? It just broke into all-time high territory. Maybe this one does have some legs behind it. No, it does not. It failed right away. Okay. Now we're getting a little uglier. Fast forward, once again, this chart still sucks back in time. Applied Digital down 4.5%. But then I start looking, I'm like, well, that's kind of a a spinning top at its 20-day moving average. There's a little bit of a battle going on. Paymentus, it's sold down 3.5%, but it's stopped pretty much right at its 10-day moving average. Then you get Lending Club. It's also found support at its 10-day moving average, kind of a spinning club. And then, or spinning top. And now you start seeing like, okay, this one actually rallied off of its 10-day moving average, and it kind of followed the market's lead. And then same thing with Tiger. Tiger gapped down, but it opened up down and then rallied out throughout the day. That's actually a pretty strong looking candle. Same thing with PGY. PGI opens right at its 10-day and it spends the rest of the day rallying. Then you start seeing, wait a minute, Netflix closes up, the whole market's selling off. This one actually closed up. HBM closed up, similar look, right? Didn't even touch the 10-day moving average. BKV, recent breakout, tested. This is a perfect, that's a really good look. Almost wanted to buy this one today. iRhythm, same thing, open right at the 10-day, and it ended up closing up on the day. App, Lovin, even App, similar look, closed down, rallied up on the day. It's up positive. Fudu, similar look. Opened at the 20 or traded down the 20-day average, retook the 10-day average as well, plus it closed up on the day. Carmen, recent breakout, Carmen Holdings. Really strong look there. BBNX, one we've talked about a couple of times. This one shook out, recovered, and then is continuing its move, closed up almost 1%. Credo closed up almost 1% after being down considerably throughout the day. Spotify, potential bottoming candle here. Now, you could almost say that about any up day, really, but this is a good looking. That's a clear, we had a nice strong downtrend here. It's down about 7.5%. That's a really good bottoming look, and if it can overtake the previous buy point of 698.50, that could be a secondary buy signal. AXM didn't even trade down. It just traded up on the day. Western Digital, look at that. This one just looks like it's way too extended, right? There's no way this thing has any more legs. It's showing some muscle at the 10-day moving average. It closed up almost 2%. Interdigital, same thing. This one, I actually almost jumped on this one today. I just ran out of time. I was too busy looking at other things. But I'm like, wow. But I mean, it is. I passed on it. I still think it's too extended. So I'm like, boy, but that is a very bullish looking candle
Yeah.
right there. Up 2% when the whole market's selling off hard. Recent breakout Wi-Fi, white fiber, up 6% almost on the day. And then you have Amplitech Group, one that I did buy on Friday. I ended up, this was the crazy part. I ended up getting a little signal, ding, and I'm thinking, oh, all day I'm expecting to get alerts for stops, right? I don't get anything because I have some pretty recent buys. All of a sudden I get an alert, ding, and I'm going, oh, here it is. No, it was Amplitech Group. I'm taking profits. I'm like, what on earth? Where's this coming from, right? And then look at Iran. Iran opened on its low and it rallied up after a massive gain on Friday. So the day that you would expect to see these kind of stocks just sell off hard, you get the exact opposite when you start looking into it. So by the time I stopped looking at the stocks, by the time I started looking at some of these, I hadn't even, to be honest with you, Matt, I hadn't even looked at what the major averages were doing. By the time I got through some of these leading stocks, I was about ready to buy. I had one order, I just ran out of time. I was about ready to click send and the bell rang. So then I started looking at the major averages and I'm like, whoa, that's an ugly look, right? Like that's an
Yeah.
ugly break of these
Yeah.
trends. Got a clear break of the 20-day. A clear break of the 20-day on the S&P 500. So really, just by looking at that, we should be a little bit more bearish than
Awesome.
what I
Yeah.
feel just after looking at the leading stocks. And these are pretty much just the August. I haven't even gone back to look at any of the July or the June or
Right.
all to April break. These are just the ones we've had in the past three or 4 weeks. So it was an interesting session to say the least. But all in all, I got the other last alert I got was for a breakout off of our watch list, off of our arrow list. So I actually did some profit taking and some buying, and not a single stop was hit today on, and not even close on any of my new holdings. So that tells me something there. Just underneath, just following the rules is putting me into the market when the major averages are saying, hey, you might want to be cautious here. So it's interesting how this is going to play out. I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, no kidding. That is a kind of a crazy breakdown for everything. And to see the two sides of that same coin, you know what I mean, going on at the same time is, like you said, what an interesting, fascinating day,
Yeah.
So we'll see what
Here's
happens
the
tomorrow. Hopefully we can avoid the red zone and keep moving things higher, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah. The other thing that I noticed too is I took a look at. I have got a list of stocks that are just random AI stocks, right? If at any
Okay.
point in time it was mentioned in an article about AI, or if something said, "Hey, this AI related," or it's in that sector. So there's like 90 stocks on this list, right? That I just check out periodically. Only 12 of those 90 stocks were up today.
Well,
So a lot of it was AI related, right? And you're looking at our recent breakouts, there's not a lot of AI related stocks. Yeah, sure,
no.
Credo's on there, but there's a lot of gold stocks, which you didn't even get into. There's some drug manufacturers that have been strong. There's some defense like Carmen, defensive stocks like not defensive as in defensive sectors. I mean defense stocks, right? So it's interesting the way that the major averages are set up because the a lot of the AI plays are big a average stocks, right? And so it's interesting to see how that's all playing out. I'm just following the rules, right? We're still technically in the green zone. There's some fundamentally sound stocks breaking out. That are flashing some accumulation underneath when they're showing distribution. That's relative strength that you want to jump on board. So that's what we're trying to take advantage of. Whether it pans out, that's we're going to find out tomorrow,
We
to
will
say
see.
the least. So hopefully, just from the day of the feel, I kind of anticipate a little bit of buying tomorrow. That's just from the look of the. I want to see that momentum, and that's just my hope, right? I want to see that momentum carry through and avoid the potential red zone. So yeah, I'm excited, Matt. We'll do it all over. I'm excited to see what the algorithm kicks out because there were a lot of stocks that traded up today, even though the general was down. So it would be nice to see if we get a nice little bump in potential buy candidates for tomorrow, right as the market rallies. That would be the dramatic kind of touchdown spike in the end zone at the end of the game kind of feel to it.
Absolutely. And that'll be coming up here in Arrow Review. I can't wait to see what they are. And if you want access to our Arrow Review, our daily buy and sell signals from our algorithm, or if you just want to join a cool group of traders that are in there talking about what they're doing and how, subscribe over on our Patreon, patreon.com/Empire Algorithmic Trading. Otherwise, check us out, who we are, what we do at our website, VWAPvision.com, VWAPvision.com. And wherever you digest your trading media, we're there. Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, X, wherever you are, we want to be. So make sure you follow us over there. And Jace, Till Arrow Review, happy trading, my dude.
Thanks, man. We'll see you in a little bit. See you, man. Bye.